A lonely traveler waits for the last train at a forgotten station. When it arrives, it makes no sound. Asterisk, inside no passengers, only whispers. The train moves through time, not distance, and once you board it, there's no way back. The Last Train, Part 1. The night station. The night was thick with mist. The stars had vanished behind a heavy quilt of clouds, and the wind carried the distant smell of wet soil and rust. Asterisk. Rohan stepped off the small bus and stared at the signboard half hidden by vines. Shripur Halt. Asterisk. He had never heard of this station before. According to his map, it was only a short stop between two major towns, but the bus driver had dropped him there with a careless shrug. Asterisk. Last stop, boss. No more buses tonight, the man had said. Then he drove away, his taillights swallowed by the fog. Asterisk. Rohan tightened his backpack straps and walked toward the platform. Asterisk. The station looked abandoned. The tin roof was half broken, one light flickered weakly, and somewhere an old fan spun with a sound like a dying insect. A dog barked once in the distance, then went silent. He checked his phone, no signal. The screen glowed faintly for a second, showing 11:02 p.m. Asterisk. There was supposed to be one more train tonight, a late local heading back toward Dhaka. If he could catch it, he'd be home before dawn. But right now, the only thing moving around him was the mist itself. Asterisk. At the far end of the platform stood a wooden bench. Sitting there was a man wrapped in a grey shawl, his face hidden under the shadow of an old hat. A kerosene lamp flickered beside him. Rohan hesitated, then walked closer. Excuse me, uncle. Is the train to Dhaka still coming? Asterisk. The man turned his head slowly. His eyes glimmered in the dim light, pale, almost colorless. Asterisk. It comes, the man said in a gravelly voice. It always comes, but you shouldn't ride it. Asterisk. Rohan frowned. What do you mean? Asterisk. The man smiled, a slow, empty smile. You'll see. Asterisk. Before Rohan could ask more, the old man picked up his lamp and shuffled away toward the shadows behind the ticket office. Asterisk. The wind blew harder now. Somewhere a door creaked open and slammed shut. Asterisk. Rohan stood alone, his breath visible in the cold air. Then, a sound, a faint whistle, far away, fading in and out through the fog. Asterisk. He leaned forward, straining his ears. The whistle came again, sharper this time, closer. The ground under his feet trembled slightly. He stepped back from the edge of the platform. Asterisk. Through the curtain of mist, he saw two distant lights, like eyes cutting through darkness. The last train was arriving. Relief washed over him, but only for a second, because as the engine grew closer, Rohan realized something strange. There was no sound of wheels. The tracks shimmered under the lamplight, yet the train seemed to glide over them without contact. The air grew colder. The smell of metal and smoke filled his nose, but there was no smoke. Asterisk. The train stopped in front of him with a hiss that sounded almost like breathing. Doors slid open. Inside, the carriages glowed faint blue, almost silver. No passengers, no conductor, just empty seats, stretching into darkness. Asterisk. Rohan looked around. The platform was empty. The old man was gone. Even the dog had disappeared. Asterisk. He stepped closer to the door. The air around it felt colder than ice. A whisper floated out so faint he thought it might be wind. Asterisk. Get in. Asterisk. Rohan's heart hammered. He pulled his backpack tight. Asterisk. It's just a train, he muttered to himself. Just a train. He stepped inside. The floor was cold metal. The walls gleamed faintly, though there were no lights. As he walked down the aisle, the train seemed to hum softly, like a living thing. Asterisk. He sat near the window. Outside, the mist pressed against the glass, hiding everything. Then, the door closed. Without a sound, the train began to move. Asterisk. Rohan turned to look for the driver's cabin, but a long corridor stretched ahead, longer than any train should be. He tried to count the seats. They seemed endless. Asterisk. He called out. Anyone here? Asterisk. No reply. Only the rhythmic pulse beneath his feet. Thump, thump, thump like a beating heart. He stood up and walked forward. Each step echoed twice, once from his foot, and once again, delayed, as if someone else was walking behind him. He spun around. No one. The lights flickered. For a second, he saw a reflection in the window beside him, not his own. A woman, standing behind him, smiling faintly. Asterisk. When he turned, she was gone. Asterisk. The hum of the train deepened, like a growl. Asterisk. He ran toward the next compartment, pushing through the door. The carriage beyond was darker, filled with the smell of dust and something sweet, like rotting flowers. Asterisk. At the far end, a figure sat near the window. Long hair, white dress. Rohan's throat went dry. He whispered. The figure turned slowly, Her face was pale and beautiful, but her eyes were empty to black holes that reflected no light. She tilted her head. Asterisk, you came, she said softly. They always come. Asterisk. Rohan backed away. Who are you? Asterisk, she smiled. You'll know when we reach the last stop. Asterisk, the train jolted. Lights flickered. He stumbled back into another seat. When he looked again, the woman was gone. Asterisk, outside. The fog began to thin. Through the window he saw shadows of old buildings, burned and broken. The landscape looked ancient. No lights, no people. The train was passing through a town that shouldn't exist. Asterisk, he pressed his face to the glass. In the distance, he saw a sign flashing briefly through the mist. Asterisk, Shripur Halt -1985. His stomach twisted. He had seen that same name outside the station, but 1985. Asterisk, he looked at his phone again. The screen was dead. No battery, though it had been full moments ago. Asterisk, he sat still, trying to breathe quietly. Then, a voice beside him. Do you have a ticket? Asterisk, Rohan turned. A man in an old-fashioned uniform stood there, his cap tilted, his skin grey like ash. Asterisk, yes. Rohan stammered, fumbling in his bag. I bought one. Asterisk, the man extended his hand, palm up. Long, cold fingers. Rohan placed his paper ticket on it. The conductor looked at it, then at him. This ticket expired 40 years ago, he said. Rohan's mouth went dry. What are you talking about? Asterisk, the man smiled, thin, sharp teeth gleaming under the dim light. Asterisk, no one rides the last train without paying the right fare. Then he vanished like smoke fading into the air. Rohan froze, heart racing. Asterisk, the hum under the floor grew louder. Thunderous vibration. Asterisk, he looked out again, and for a split second, he saw faces pressed against the windows from the outside, dozens of them, pale, dead, watching. Asterisk, the train sped faster, the fog tearing away. The tracks below glowed faintly red. The sound became unbearable. Asterisk, he closed his eyes, gripping the seat, whispering, wake up, then, silence. When he opened his eyes, the train was standing still. The doors slid open. Outside lay the same platform, but the sign now read, Shripur Halt -1985, the same bench, the same flickering light, but no fog, no sound. Asterisk, Rohan stepped out slowly, his legs trembling. The platform looked newer, no cracks, no rust. Everything looked like it had decades ago. Behind him, the train hissed softly and vanished. The Last Train, Part 2, The Invisible Passenger. The platform was silent again. But something was different. Asterisk, the cracked tiles Rohan had seen before were smooth now, clean and new. The broken roof was whole, and the old rusted sign looked freshly painted. Asterisk, only one thing remained unchanged. The cold. It clung to his skin like mist. Asterisk, Rohan turned slowly, trying to understand what he was seeing. The same place, but not the same time. Asterisk, his phone screen still refused to light. His watch had stopped at 11:47 p.m. Asterisk, he heard a faint humming, not mechanical, but human. Someone was singing softly, the tune drifting through the fog that was beginning to creep back. He followed the sound. Behind the ticket counter, a lamp burned steadily. A woman sat there, writing something in a large book. She wore a dark blue sari, her hair neatly pinned. Her pen scratched on paper in slow rhythmic strokes. Rohan exhaled with relief. Thank God. Excuse me, ma'am. Asterisk, the woman looked up. Her eyes were calm, too calm. Asterisk, yes. Asterisk, I just got off a train. I think I'm lost. Could you tell me where? Asterisk, she interrupted softly. You came from the last train. Asterisk, he froze. You know about that train? Asterisk, she nodded. It still runs every night. Few see it, fewer return. Asterisk, he took a hesitant step closer. Then you know how I can leave. Asterisk, she smiled faintly. No one leaves Shripur after midnight. Asterisk, the lamp flickered once, and her face seemed to blur, as if heat were rising between them. When it steadied again, the chair behind the counter was empty. Asterisk, the book lay open, pages yellowed and brittle. Dust covered everything. The lamp had burned out long ago. Rohan stepped back, heart hammering. What the hell is happening here? Asterisk, he walked toward the station exit. The doors were chained shut from the outside. He pulled hard. They didn't move. Then he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, barefoot, coming closer. Asterisk, hello, he said, turning. No one. The footsteps stopped. Asterisk, he waited a second, then turned again to face the chained door. Asterisk, and saw handprints appear on the glass in front of him, forming out of thin air, as if something invisible was pressing from the other side. Asterisk, he stumbled backward, breath short. The prints were small, like a child's. Asterisk, one by one, they began to smear downward, leaving faint trails as if the invisible hands were melting into the glass. Asterisk, a whisper slid into his ear, though there was no one beside him. Asterisk, you shouldn't have come. Asterisk, Rohan spun around, shouting into the darkness, who are you? What do you want? The answer came from the loudspeaker above, its metal cone rusted and dead. The train will depart in 5 minutes. Asterisk, the voice was distorted, half mechanical, but the power to the station was off. Asterisk, no electricity. No reason for the loudspeaker to work. Asterisk, Rohan backed up against a wall, trying to steady his breathing. He felt something cold brush against his hand like wind, but heavier. He looked down. A child's toy lay at his feet, a small wooden train, painted red. Asterisk, he knelt, picked it up. The paint had peeled, but one side still bore tiny letters. Asterisk to R, his own initial. He dropped it immediately. Asterisk, the humming returned. This time, all around him, like 100 voices humming the same sad tune. Asterisk, then a whistle, faint, distant. Asterisk, he ran outside through a broken window, cutting his palm on the glass. The air outside was thicker now, and the fog shimmered faintly with light. The train was coming back. He heard the low moan of metal bending. The tracks glowed red again, as if hot from within. Asterisk, but the train didn't slow this time. It roared through the station like a beast, faster and faster, each carriage filled with blurred shapes that looked almost human. Asterisk, faces pressed to the windows again. Men, women, children, pale eyes staring right at him as the train flew past. Asterisk, then, near the end, he saw himself, Asterisk, sitting in a seat, staring back at him. The shock knocked the breath out of him. He stumbled to the side, knees weak, clutching the rail post for support. Asterisk, when the last carriage vanished, silence fell like ash. Only the sound of his own heartbeat remained. He turned slowly toward the far end of the platform. Asterisk, someone was standing there, a woman in white, the same one he had seen inside the train. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You came back, she said. Rohan's throat was dry. What do you want from me? Asterisk, I told you, she whispered. You'll know when we reach the last stop. She tilted her head, as if listening to something he couldn't hear. Someone's looking for you. Asterisk, what? But she was already fading, her body dissolving into mist. Only her voice lingered, echoing softly. Asterisk, run. He turned and saw movement near the tracks, a shadow, tall and thin, crawling out from under the platform. Asterisk, it moved wrong, joints bending backward, limbs too long. Asterisk, Rohan ran toward the station building, heart thundering. He pushed through the doors, sprinted down the corridor, and burst into what looked like the old waiting room. Asterisk, chairs lay overturned, posters peeled from the walls. Asterisk, in the corner, a figure sat slumped against the wall, the old man from earlier, the one with the grey shawl. Asterisk, Rohan rushed over. Uncle, you're here. What is this place? Asterisk, the old man's head lifted slowly. His eyes were black, no whites left. Asterisk, you shouldn't have boarded. Son, he croaked. The train doesn't take passengers, it collects them. Asterisk, Rohan backed away. What do you mean? Asterisk, the dead never leave. They ride forever until someone takes their place. Asterisk, the air turned freezing. Rohan's breath fogged in front of him. Asterisk, the old man's mouth opened wider, far wider than it should. From inside came the distant rumble of a train and faint screams. Asterisk, Rohan shouted and ran, kicking open a door at the end of the hall. Asterisk, he stumbled outside again, but this time it wasn't the platform anymore. Asterisk, he stood on a dirt path leading into a forest. The moon was high, but everything around him was washed in grey, as if color had drained from the world. Asterisk, behind him, the station was gone. Asterisk, he turned in circles, disoriented. Asterisk, then, from deep within the trees, came the sound of a train whistle, faint, lonely. And another sound, a whispering voice, closer now, saying his name. Rohan, hurry, the train doesn't wait. Asterisk, he looked down and saw faint tracks beneath the dead leaves, not railway tracks, but footprints, leading into the darkness. Asterisk, one set, bare feet. Asterisk, he hesitated only a moment, then followed. Each step sank into soft earth, the cold digging into his skin. Asterisk, the trees closed around him, branches like black ribs against the sky. The whispering continued, always ahead, always just out of reach. Asterisk, finally he saw a light through the trees, small, flickering. He approached slowly. Asterisk, a campfire burned in a clearing, and beside it sat a man in a torn conductor's uniform. His eyes reflected the fire like glass. He smiled when he saw Rohan. Lost your way, sir. Asterisk, Rohan didn't answer. He just stared at the badge on the man's chest. It read Shripur Railway Service -1985. Asterisk, the man gestured toward the fire. Sit, the night is long. Asterisk, Rohan shook his head. I need to get out of here. Asterisk, the conductor chuckled. Out? No one gets out. But if you wish to try, you'll need your ticket. Asterisk, I gave it to you, Rohan said, voice shaking. On the train? Asterisk, the man's grin widened. Then you've already paid the fare. Asterisk, the fire flared suddenly, bright white. The forest vanished for a heartbeat, replaced by the inside of a moving train, the same carriage, the same hum beneath his feet. Asterisk, he blinked, and the fire returned. The conductor was gone. Asterisk, only the small wooden toy lay in the ashes, still burning. Asterisk, Rohan fell to his knees, clutching his head. The world spun around him, forest, fire, station lights, train windows all flickering in and out like a broken film reel. Asterisk, when the spinning stopped, he was standing once more on the platform. But now the clock read 11:59. The whistle blew again, closer than ever. The last train was coming for him. One more time he turned to run, but something cold caught his wrist. Asterisk, he looked down, a pale hand gripping him tightly. Asterisk, the woman in white was there again, eyes glistening with tears. Asterisk, it's not over yet, she whispered. You still have time. Then the whistle screamed, drowning everything in sound and darkness. The Last Train, Part 3, The Ticket from the Past. When Rohan opened his eyes again, the world was grey. Asterisk, the station was still there, but faint, half-transparent, as if built from fog and memory. The sound of the whistle still echoed in his ears. Asterisk, the clock above the platform had stopped at Las 12 alta sharp. Asterisk, he tried to move, but his body felt heavy, as if the air itself had weight. The faint outline of the woman in white shimmered before him, her expression both sorrowful and calm. Asterisk, where am I? He whispered. Asterisk, she looked toward the rails. Between, she said softly. The train travels between what was and what remains. Asterisk, Rohan's head throbbed. He turned away, forcing himself to breathe. There has to be a way out of here. Asterisk, the woman smiled faintly. There always is, but the price must be paid. Before he could ask, she vanished again, dissolving into thin mist. Rohan stumbled toward the waiting room. The once gleaming posters were peeling again, colors drained. On one, he could barely make out the words, asterisk, Shripur Line, inauguration, -1985, asterisk. Something clicked in his memory. He'd seen that same date on the ticket he'd dropped earlier. Asterisk, he started searching the ticket office. Drawers broken, dust heavy in the air. Inside one, he found a stack of tickets, old and yellowed. Asterisk, every single one had the same printed date, October 9th, 1985. Asterisk, and on the back of each ticket, handwritten in blue ink, a single word, asterisk, return. Asterisk, the moment he touched one, the air around him shimmered. Asterisk, suddenly he wasn't in the office anymore. He was standing on the same platform, but bright, bustling, alive. People everywhere, laughter, voices, children running with their parents. Asterisk, he turned around, stunned. Everything was new again, the paint fresh, the lights steady. The station was alive. Asterisk, a man in uniform hurried past, brushing his shoulder. Careful there, sir. Asterisk, Rohan blinked. What year is this? Asterisk, the man frowned. 1985, of course. October 9th. The new line opens tonight. Rohan's skin went cold. He watched the crowd gather as an old black train pulled in. Polished and shining, people clapped and waved, cheering the new service that would connect the village to the city. Asterisk, and through it all, one detail kept bothering him. The woman in white stood at the far end of the platform, watching him. Asterisk, he pushed through the crowd toward her. What's happening? Asterisk, she looked at him with eyes full of sorrow. You're seeing how it began. Asterisk, the whistle blew. People cheered, but her voice cut through the noise like wind through glass. Asterisk, they should never have left that night. Asterisk, then, chaos, a spark near the engine, smoke, someone shouting. In seconds, the front carriage burst into flames. Screams filled the air. Asterisk, Rohan covered his mouth, the heat scorching his face even from a distance. Passengers tried to escape, but the doors jammed. The conductor shouted orders, but no one listened. Asterisk, the train caught fire faster than seemed possible. light blazing against the fog. The crowd scattered. The woman didn't move. Asterisk, Rohan shouted, "Get away." Asterisk, she looked straight at him. "I couldn't." Asterisk, a blast, deafening, hurled him backward. He hit the ground, everything spinning. When the smoke cleared, the train was a black skeleton of metal. Asterisk, he could hear crying, coughing, the hiss of dying flames. Asterisk, bodies on the platform, burnt luggage, silence slowly swallowing everything. Asterisk, he crawled forward, gasping. What happened? A voice beside him, the conductor, his face blackened by soot, eyes red, fuel leak. "They warned us. We didn't listen." He coughed, blood on his lips. No survivors on board. The line was shut down forever. Asterisk, Rohan stared at the wreck. "But I saw it. The train still runs." Asterisk, the conductor nodded weakly. "It does. For us." Asterisk, Rohan blinked, and the world around him dissolved again. Fire, smoke, people all gone. The silent, broken station returned. Asterisk, he stood where he had been, holding one of the old tickets. Asterisk, it now looked new again, crisp, freshly printed, the ink still wet. Asterisk, across the front, his own name had appeared, Rohan Das. Asterisk, his chest tightened. "No." Asterisk, the whistle sounded again. The platform lights flickered to life one by one. The rails gleamed as if calling him back. Asterisk, behind him, the woman spoke. "You know now." Asterisk, Rohan turned. "I know what happened. But why me?" Asterisk, she stepped closer, her bare feet leaving no sound. "Because you boarded. The last train looks for the living who still carry the dead inside them." Asterisk, he stared, confusion and fear mixing. "The dead inside." Asterisk, she smiled sadly. "Your father worked here, didn't he?" Rohan froze. He hadn't told her that. No one here could know. But she was right. His father had been a railway worker who vanished when Rohan was a child. They said he'd died in an accident at Shripur station. He whispered, "You knew him." Asterisk, she nodded slowly. "He was the conductor." Asterisk, the floor beneath him seemed to drop away. "That's impossible." Asterisk, he never left, she said. "He stayed with the train." Asterisk, the sound of footsteps echoed from the far end of the platform. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, the same man Rohan had seen by the fire. The conductor's uniform torn but recognizable. Asterisk, Rohan, the man said, his voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come." Asterisk, Rohan stared, his throat tightening. "Dad." Asterisk, the man smiled faintly. "You look just like your mother." Asterisk, Rohan's vision blurred. You're real." Asterisk, the conductor nodded. "As real as anything here." He stepped closer, hand trembling. "You have to leave before the next whistle. When the clock strikes 1, the train will take another soul." Asterisk, Rohan's voice cracked. "Come with me." Asterisk, his father shook his head. "I can't. My place is here." Asterisk, the woman in white stood beside him now, her face softer. "He tried to stop the fire. He went back for me." Asterisk, Rohan's heart twisted. You were on that train." Asterisk, she nodded. "And he never left me." Asterisk, the station light flickered violently. The whistle blew again, louder this time close. Asterisk, his father grabbed his shoulder. "Run, son. Follow the track east. Don't look back, but go." Asterisk, Rohan ran. The air grew hotter, wind slashing his face. Behind him, the roar of the train rose like thunder. He turned once, saw his father and the woman standing side by side. The glow of the approaching engine washing over them. Then the light consumed everything. He fell forward onto gravel, coughing, choking on smoke. Asterisk, when he opened his eyes, the forest had returned. The tracks beneath him stretched into darkness. No train, no station, only silence. Asterisk, he stood shakily, heart pounding. The ticket still in his hand glowed faintly in the dark. The ink shimmering. Asterisk, one-way last stop, return. Asterisk, Rohan whispered, "Not yet." He started walking east, the same direction his father had pointed. Behind him, faintly, a whistle cried once more, softer now, almost peaceful. Asterisk. The Last Train, Part 4, Rohan's Final Ride. Asterisk. The wind along the tracks had no warmth left in it. Asterisk, it carried the faint metallic tang of iron and the distant whisper of wheels that weren't really turning. Asterisk, Rohan walked east the way his father had shown him, one hand tight around the glowing ticket. Asterisk, every few steps. The rails hummed as if remembering what it meant to be alive. He didn't know how long he had been walking. There was no dawn, no true darkness, just an endless grey twilight. Asterisk, the forest pressed close on both sides. Trees twisted as though they'd grown away from the noise of the trains that never stopped. Asterisk, after what felt like hours, he saw light ahead. Asterisk, a small cabin stood beside the liner signal hut, its lamp still burning though no one tended it. Asterisk, he pushed the door open. Inside, dust hung thick as fog. A table, an old ledger, and a cracked radio sat in the corner. Asterisk, the radio hissed softly. Then a voice broke through the static. Asterisk, greater than train number 9. Arriving 1 minute. Asterisk, Rohan froze. The voice was his own. He stumbled back, knocking the chair over. The radio kept repeating, arriving, 1 minute, until it cut to a shriek of feedback and went silent. Asterisk, he opened the ledger. The pages were filled with neat handwriting. Asterisk, each entry listed a name, a date, and a single word under destination. Asterisk, some said gone, others said returned. He flipped to the last page. Name, Rohan Das, date, destination, pending. His stomach clenched. Before he could think, the hut shuddered. Asterisk, outside, the whistle cried again, long, mournful, close. Asterisk, he stepped to the doorway. The fog along the rails was glowing. The train was back, only this time it moved slowly, almost gently, as if waiting. Asterisk, the door slid open. Warm light spilled out. Asterisk, inside, he saw rows of empty seats and, near the back, a figure sitting with a bowed head. Asterisk, Rohan swallowed hard and climbed aboard. Asterisk, the air smelled faintly of smoke and old paper. Asterisk, he walked down the aisle. Each step echoed twice. Like before, the figure looked up. It was his father. The conductor's uniform was clean now, the badge polished. He smiled, tired but proud. Greater than, you found the way. Asterisk, Rohan's throat tightened. Is this the end? Asterisk, his father shook his head. It's the ride home. They sat together as the train began to move. Outside, the forest blurred into shapes of light and shadow. Asterisk, sometimes Rohan saw cities, sometimes deserts, sometimes nothing at all. It felt like traveling through memories, their memories. His father spoke quietly. Every soul that dies in fear boards this train. It runs the path between regret and release. Asterisk, you boarded because you still carried me with you. Asterisk, Rohan looked down at the ticket. The word return glowed brighter. I can't leave you here, he said. His father smiled sadly. You won't. You'll carry what matters, and that's enough. Asterisk, the carriage lights dimmed. For a heartbeat, Rohan saw the passengers who'd burned all those years ago. Men, women, children, now seated peacefully, their faces calm. The woman in white sat near the window, her gaze soft, the flames gone from her eyes. Asterisk, she nodded to him once, as if saying thank you. The train began to slow. Through the window he saw a faint horizon morning light, the first he had seen since Shripur. Asterisk, his father stood. This is your stop. Asterisk, Rohan rose to, come with me. Asterisk, I can't. The line needs a conductor. He placed a hand on Rohan's shoulder. Live well. Remember, the train only comes for those who forget how. Asterisk, the whistle blew. Low and final. The door opened onto open fields bathed in sunrise. Rohan stepped out. Asterisk, warm air touched his face. Behind him, the train glowed gold, fading into the horizon until only the sound of the whistle remained. Asterisk, he looked down at his ticket blank now. The ink vanished. Asterisk, when he turned toward the road, he saw the old sign half buried in grass. Shripur Halt, only the rusted skeleton of it. Asterisk, weeds grew over the tracks. No trains had run here in decades. Asterisk, he took one deep breath and began to walk. The Last Train, Part 5. The final whistle. Asterisk, the sun had risen high, but its warmth never reached the broken tracks. Asterisk, Rohan stood alone beside the weeds that had swallowed Shripur Halt. Asterisk, the world around him looked new, younger yet quieter, as if time itself held its breath. He touched the rusted rail. Cold, solid, real. For the first time in what felt like centuries, he could hear birds instead of the whistle. Asterisk, and yet, beneath it all, he could feel the faintest hum, like a memory that refused to fade. Asterisk, he turned toward the distant road. Asterisk, there was no sign of the station building anymore, only fragments of wall, and the burnt remains of a wooden bench. Asterisk, he could still smell the faint ghost of smoke. Asterisk, a man's voice came from behind him. Asterisk, you missed your train, didn't you? Rohan turned. A local farmer stood there, his eyes narrow from years of sun. Asterisk, Rohan nodded slowly. I suppose I did. Asterisk, the man frowned. Funny thing, no trains have run through here since before I was born. People say the last one burned, back in the 1950s. Asterisk, Rohan's chest tightened. You've heard of it? Asterisk, the farmer shrugged. Everyone's heard of it. They say the passengers never made it home. Some nights, they still ride the ghost line. Asterisk, he looked at Rohan's clothes, clean but old-fashioned, the dust of years clinging to every thread. Asterisk, where are you coming from, anyway? Asterisk, Rohan hesitated. How do you explain that you stepped off a train no one alive had seen? Asterisk, he forced a smile. From the other side of the tracks, I guess. Asterisk, the man chuckled, shook his head, and walked away. Rohan watched him go, the sound of footsteps fading into the wind. The return that night. Rohan found shelter in an abandoned rest house near the old station grounds. Asterisk, he built a small fire, though the wood smoked more than it burned. Asterisk, he didn't feel hungry or tired. Just hollow on the wall above the fireplace hung a cracked mirror. When he glanced at it, he saw himself, but something was different. Asterisk, his reflection seemed a second behind, moving a fraction slower than he did. He stared, then, behind his own image, he saw movement, rows of passengers, faint, transparent, watching him. Asterisk, among them was the woman in white. She smiled softly, lifted her hand as if waving goodbye. Asterisk, the reflection faded. The mirror went dark. Asterisk, Rohan whispered, "You're free now." The fire flickered out. The whistle returns. Days passed, though time felt uncertain. Asterisk, he wandered through the nearby towns, looking for any trace of his life. No one knew his name. Records said Rohan Das had died 30 years ago. In the train fire at Shripur Junction, he found an old newspaper in a library archive. It showed the wreck, charred and twisted. Beneath the headline, Asterisk, conductor and son among the dead. The picture beneath was blurry, but he could see his father's face, and beside him, his own. His hands trembled as the paper slipped to the floor. So he hadn't escaped the train at all. He had been on it from the beginning. The return his ticket promised wasn't life, it was release. Asterisk, Rohan stepped outside. The evening sky was turning orange over the fields. Asterisk, a familiar wind rose, carrying a distant whistle, soft, low, but unmistakable. He closed his eyes. The sound wasn't frightening anymore. It was beautiful, peaceful. The last ride. Night fell. The moon rose over the tracks, silver and cold. Asterisk, when Rohan returned to Shripur Halt, the air shimmered faintly. Asterisk, the rails, though broken in daylight, looked whole again under the moonlight. Asterisk, far down the line, he saw the golden glow approaching the train. Asterisk, its whistle echoed once more, filling the valley with a sound that was half sorrow, half lullaby. Asterisk, the carriages came into view, shining like liquid gold. Asterisk, through the windows he saw smiling, waiting. Asterisk, at the door stood his father, still wearing his conductor's cap. Asterisk, greater than ready to go home, his father asked. Asterisk, Rohan nodded. I thought I already did. Asterisk, his father smiled. Not quite. You stayed behind for them. Now it's time. Rohan stepped onto the train one last time. As the door closed, the world outside began to dissolve, trees fading into light, the ground melting into mist. The passengers bowed their heads in silence. The whistle blew a final time, and the train lifted off the tracks, gliding into the night sky like a river of gold. Asterisk, below, Shripur vanished completely. Asterisk, no tracks, no station, no signs it had ever existed. Epilogue. Asterisk, years later, travelers on the new highway that cut through the valley often spoke of a strange sound on quiet nights. Asterisk, a whistle that came from nowhere and faded into the clouds. Asterisk, some said they saw lights moving through the fog like a train where there were no rails. Asterisk, and sometimes, just sometimes, those who stopped to listen swore they heard voices. Asterisk, a man and his son, laughing softly, riding together toward the dawn. The end. Part 5a. The Return and the Whistle returns. Asterisk, the sun had risen high, but its warmth never reached the broken tracks. Asterisk, Rohan stood alone beside the weeds that had swallowed Shripur Halt. Asterisk, the world around him looked newer, younger yet quieter, as if time itself held its breath. He touched the rusted rail. Cold, solid, real. For the first time in centuries, he could hear birds instead of the whistle. Asterisk, and yet, beneath it all, he could feel the faintest hum, like a memory that refused to fade. Asterisk. He turned toward the distant road. Asterisk, there was no sign of the station building anymore, only fragments of wall, and the burnt remains of a wooden bench. Asterisk, he could still smell the faint ghost of smoke. Asterisk, a man's voice came from behind him. Asterisk, you missed your train, didn't you? Rohan turned. A local farmer stood there, his eyes narrow from years of sun. Asterisk, Rohan nodded slowly. I suppose I did. Asterisk, the man frowned. Funny thing, no trains have run through here since before I was born. People say the last one burned, back in the 1950s. Asterisk Rohan's chest tightened. You've heard of it? Asterisk the farmer shrugged. Everyone's heard of it. They say the passengers never made it home. Some nights, they still ride the ghost line. Asterisk he looked at Rohan's clothes, clean but old-fashioned, the dust of years clinging to every thread. Asterisk, where are you coming from, anyway? Asterisk, Rohan hesitated. From the other side of the tracks, I guess. Asterisk the man chuckled, shook his head, and walked away. Rohan watched him go, the sound of footsteps fading into the wind. Asterisk that night, Rohan found shelter in an abandoned rest house near the old station grounds. Asterisk he built a small fire, though the wood smoked more than it burned. Asterisk he didn't feel hungry or tired, just hollow. On the wall above the fireplace hung a cracked mirror. When he glanced at it, he saw himself, but something was different. Asterisk his reflection seemed a second behind, moving a fraction slower than he did. He stared. Then, behind his own image, he saw movement, rows of passengers, faint, transparent, watching him. Asterisk among them was the woman in white. She smiled softly, lifted her hand as if waving goodbye. Asterisk, the reflection faded. The mirror went dark. Asterisk, Rohan whispered, you're free now. The fire flickered out. Asterisk, days passed, though time felt uncertain. Asterisk he wandered through the nearby towns, looking for any trace of his life. No one knew his name. Records said Rohan Das had died 30 years ago. In the train fire at Shripur Junction, he found an old newspaper in a library archive. It showed the wreck, charred and twisted. Beneath the headline, Asterisk conductor and son among the dead. The picture beneath was blurry, but he could see his father's face. And beside him, his own. His hands trembled as the paper slipped to the floor. So he hadn't escaped the train at all. He had been on it from the beginning. The return his ticket promised wasn't life. It was release. Part 5b. The last ride and epilogue. Asterisk Rohan stepped outside. The evening sky was turning orange over the fields. Asterisk a familiar wind rose, carrying a distant whistle, soft, low, but unmistakable. He closed his eyes. The sound wasn't frightening anymore. It was beautiful, peaceful. Night fell. The moon rose over the tracks, silver and cold. Asterisk when Rohan returned to Shripur Halt, the air shimmered faintly. Asterisk the rails, though broken in daylight, looked whole again under the moonlight. Asterisk far down the line, he saw the golden glow approaching the train. Asterisk its whistle echoed once more, filling the valley with a sound that was half sorrow, half lullaby. Asterisk the carriages came into view, shining like liquid gold. Asterisk through the windows he saw faces, smiling, waiting. Asterisk at the door stood his father, still wearing his conductor's cap. Asterisk greater than ready to go home. His father asked. Asterisk Rohan nodded. I thought I already did. Asterisk his father smiled. Not quite. You stayed behind for them. Now it's time. Rohan stepped onto the train one last time. As the door closed, the world outside began to dissolve, trees fading into light, the ground melting into mist. The passengers bowed their heads in silence. The whistle blew a final time, and the train lifted off the tracks, gliding into the night sky like a river of gold. Asterisk below, Shripur vanished completely. Asterisk no tracks, no station, no signs it had ever existed. Epilogue. Asterisk years later, travelers on the new highway that cut through the valley often spoke of a strange sound on quiet nights. Asterisk a whistle that came from nowhere and faded into the clouds. Asterisk some said they saw lights moving through the fog like a train where there were no rails. Asterisk and sometimes, just sometimes, those who stopped to listen swore they heard voices. Asterisk a man and his son, laughing softly, riding together toward the dawn.